the loading of the drive leg is also what's going to influence our acceleration, right? So the more that we load and match that slope, the more acceleration we're picking up to then block with that lead leg, right? And this is where a lot of confusion sets in. I know you and I have talked about the lead leg block in the past, but the lead leg, it doesn't have to be an aggressive knee extension, right? Like a Verlander knee extension. It just has to block forward movement. You're coming down, touchdown, boom, anchor point, and then you see that knee start to buckle there a little bit more, right? And that's where we see like the 3, maybe 4, 5 miles per hour. So again, it doesn't have to be an aggressive knee extension, just can't leak forward. It's got to block this energy, right? Because we're putting a lot of energy going forward. And it's like having a car that has a great motor and can frickin' accelerate up to 100 miles an hour in speed. It can only brake 70 miles an hour. So the odds of you wanting to drive 100 are very not likely, because the brain is smart, dude. It's not going to put you at a threat for what you can and cannot do. And again, it comes down to like kind of this alignment and this posture, right? You see, do a really good job initially. Jared Jones, very similar picture we're seeing here. Right? So now as we get going, it looks like your body just gets to a certain point where it's like, this is all we got, dude. Right? And now we're going to have to kind of pop into this extension, right? Whereas you see Jared Jones, he's rotating, right? So he goes load, hold, snap into rotation. And that snap is happening in unison with his arm retracting. So you have this flow of energy that you're going to then be able to capture when you land. It's not allowing you to truly like get into that load and then have that load influence your stride. So it kind of gets you to cut off. And you can just see here, I'm not saying, at any time when we're looking at our delivery, we should never like be jealous of someone else, or we should never like really try to focus on like moving specifically like somebody else. I'd like to use these comparisons because it's a good visual from the movement standpoint, right? So you see like very same posture in terms of true anchor point into the ground, but you're going to be somebody that's kind of staying a little bit back. And I said the slope is aggressive, right? So it's like it could be an added amount of slope that your brain's kind of saying like, hey, we got to, let's stay back here, because if we get going too far out in our front leg, we're gonna get lost. We're gonna get too far down, and then everything's gonna get thrown out. But you can see where Jared Jones head's more in the center. Head is going to be back here. It's going to be a little bit of a brake pedal. And then the stride, if you've been throwing on this mound for so long and you're establishing movement patterns based off of this slope, this can sometimes influence patterns, like your overarching authentic movement patterns. Not want to step on that frickin' end of the slope right there. So it's going to then establish this come down with your lead foot at maybe a somewhat earlier point. And again, this is just speculation, because obviously I'm not there with you and I can't, do a lot of things hands-on to identify these things, but it's interesting to see. I work with a lot of kids who have, setups in their backyard, and you can see like, all right, XYZ is kind of breaking down, and then you go to the mound and you kind of see their setup. Maybe that's something that's going to hinder that, right? So it'd be interesting to see if what you say on that in terms of like that slope, because the brain is smart, dude. The brain is going to constantly protect us against any potential threat. But see how Jared Jones just continuously gets into it from the top pelvis position. And now as we sink, just keep going. And that's why I want to get you in the 3 throw variation. I want to film those, because there are throw variations that are going to really manipulate, that deep loaded posture. Okay. So what this does, this posture here allows him to now transfer that and rotate, flip up all in time while having acceleration going forward, blocking with the lead, extending the rear hip. And now as we see when you go into your throw, you're not capturing the amount of that forward acceleration with the torso as Jared Jones gets, right? So you see how those two things are interlinked? Right? So if we continuously sink and ride that slope and use that slope to our advantage, by the time we do anchor down, your next move is just to pull and capture, right? And this is all things that kind of happens as a byproduct of that move. Whereas we see you get kind of this, ball release behind the lead knee because of that cut off, and then you're shooting just a little bit forward, and that just shows me it's just a little bit of a leak, that I think we can get over time corrected. And like I said, I want to see these drive leg progressions.